Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter, or of course you can subscribe to the channel. As you can see, we're bringing that daily content at the moment, so thank you God for another day. Hopefully we can all stay healthy and I can continue to bring that content on a daily basis. So let's talk boxing and let's get into the weigh-in first and foremost between Chris Eubank Jr. and Liam Smith. For those of you that took the time to watch the psychological deep dive, trying to analyze what these guys were trying to do, trying to get into their psyches as to how they were seeking an advantage in that press conference, you'll notice that I spoke about the fact that I felt that Chris Eubank Jr., without mentioning anything specifically, was trying to create this idea that Liam Smith was a real hero for Liverpool, a representative for his people, and I didn't feel as though it was just to put pressure on him. I explained that because he also went after Tony Bellew, I felt as though he was trying to create this idea of them, Liverpool, versus me, in a bid to try and get the hometown fans, the Mancunians, on his side, because there's a rivalry that stems from football, Manchester United versus Liverpool. Well, as far as I'm concerned, Chris Eubank Jr. is not a Manchester United football fan. From what I hear, he's not a big football fan at all, and he's from Brighton, so he's not from Manchester at all, and yet he turned up to the weigh-in wearing a Manchester United football shirt. So I think that pretty much confirms my suspicions in that regard. He also came with a football captain's armband, and it was a rainbow coloured armband. He's clearly playing to the galleries, as one of my Twitter followers put it, because he's essentially trying to tap into the controversy that has surrounded this event. Now, as you guys are aware already from that video, I think that this has been a little bit misinterpreted. I don't believe that the motives of Liam Smith are as they were portrayed. Where you stand on this is irrelevant. What is relevant is the fact that when you make one little mistake, from a PR perspective or something that you said, Eubank is ready to pounce and turn the screw. It's a George Groves level of mind games. He's absolutely fantastic at doing this sort of thing. Let me know if you think this further twisting of the screw is going to surround the Smith camp with even more nervous energy. Maybe you feel that this is going to have no effect whatsoever. Maybe you might even feel that it will create an us versus the world effect in a manner that Eubank does not want and actually drive Liam Smith. Johnny Nelson feels that actually it's Liam Smith that might have got to Eubank, and that's why Eubank in turn got personal. Maybe that's how you're seeing this. Maybe you're seeing Smith as winning the mind games. Let me know in the comment section down below. Moving on from these two guys, and I'm sure it'll be a terrific fight tonight, and I will bring a post-fight review video for that fight and for the undercard. Let's move on to Bud and DevinHaney. DevinHaney has met BudCrawford, and he seems to be getting a few tips in the ring ahead of a purported undisputed title fight against Vasyl Lomachenko. When you look at these two together, it becomes quite clear how big DevinHaney actually is. This is a massive lightweight. You have to understand that BudCrawford is operating at 2 weight categories above him. And when you look at the size of these two guys, it actually appears as though DevinHaney is the bigger man. And so the obstacle that Lomachenko will have to overcome from the sheer perspective of size is huge. Now, this is not, as some people are trying to portray it whenever anyone brings up size, an excuse for Lomachenko. Because the fact of the matter is, Haney can make lightweight. And if you can make the weight, then you're a legitimate fighter at that weight. But by the same token, we can't pretend that there isn't a size difference. It is an obstacle he has to overcome. So, here's what I want to ask you. Do you believe Vasyl Lomachenko at this stage of his career, at his age, does he genuinely believe that he can beat DevinHaney? Or is this a case of him looking at his career, saying, I'm in the twilight of my career, I have a dream, and I'm just going to shoot for the stars and hope that I can pull off an unbelievable night, a miracle, so to speak? The reason I'm asking this is because back in 2017, Vasyl Lomachenko and his manager were asked about the prospect of facing BudCrawford, and Lomachenko just said Bud's too big. Well, his manager Klimas went further. He said, forget about Crawford. We had a very good example when the guy from England, Kell Brook, fought Triple G. He looked fantastic. He came in the ring and he looked fantastic, but he was too small for Triple G. He dominated him. So fighting a champion who's 2 weight classes above him, I think it would be suicidal. It would be crazy. Now, here's the thing. Of course, Kell Brook jumping up against Golovkin is 2 weight categories. We've just explained that BudCrawford is also operating at 2 weight categories above DevinHaney. However, BudCrawford is at 147. He's not a big 147. 140 is where he became undisputed. We know that DevinHaney is a massive fighter at 135 pounds. He is at least a 140 pound fighter. He's not a natural 135 pounder. He's massive at the weight. Just like Ryan Garcia is massive at the weight. Guys like Kambosos are average sized lightweights. And guys like Lomachenko and Tank Davis are very small lightweights. Loma is a tiny lightweight to the point whereby the majority of people feel that he should still be at 130 pounds. Well, if he should be at 130 pounds, and Haney could quite conceivably and probably should be at 140 pounds, but the only reason he isn't yet is because there is some unfinished business. I think he wants that big legacy win at lightweight, because although he has the undisputed title, a lot of people don't consider Kambosos to be an elite level fighter, and so he wants that one big name before stepping up. So in some regards, you could argue that in reality, there's a two-weight discrepancy in terms of a natural size. So does Lomachenko even believe he can win this? Is it just bluster? Did we see him reveal his true thoughts when DevinHaney stepped into the ring after the Ortiz fight and he said, this guy's a lightweight? Was that an element of doubt from Loma? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now, I've had a few people say to me, "No, Chris, you're undermining the self-belief of Lomachenko here. The difference is that BudCrawford is a monster puncher and DevinHaney is pillow-fisted." Now, as I've said in the past here on this channel, I think that it's hugely overstated about DevinHaney being feather-fisted. I've said this before the Kambosos fight. I've been saying it for a long time. He's not a monster puncher, but he's also not feather-fisted. He's got enough pop there to be able to keep you honest. But it's also a bit of a myth talking about BudCrawford back in 2017 when the fight was mooted and that comment was made that he was this monster puncher. If you look at BudCrawford's last 10 fights, he has stopped everyone. He has a 100% knockout ratio from his 30th fight to his 39th fight. And we're talking about heavier guys too. Guys like Sean Porter, guys like Avanesian, Kell Brook, Mean Machine, okay, Jose Benavidez Jr. You're talking about guys that are not small. Jeff Horn. When you look at the 10 fights prior to that, he only has a 50% KO ratio. The likes of Victor Postol went the distance against him. Ray Beltran went the distance against him. Ricky Burns. Okay, so you're talking about half the opponents making the distance, making the final bell. So when they're talking about the potential of Lomachenko fighting him, and Loma and his manager are saying he's too big, they're not talking about the knockout power. They're talking about the size and the difference in reach. The reach of Crawford is actually longer than DevinHaney's, but it's not that much longer. I think it's like 2 inches, 3 inches. There is a significant height and reach advantage for BudCrawford over Loma, and there is one also for DevinHaney over Lomachenko. And Devin has this brilliant ability. Some people don't like it. I understand. I've had a lot of people telling me how unpopular it is. A lot of people feel that it's cheating. Irrelevant. He has a very good ability to be able to tie you up and stop you working. Whether you want that in the sport or not, whether it's excessive in the sport or not, it's a reality. Muhammad Ali used to clinch quite excessively. Vladimir Klitschko used to clinch excessively. It's part of the sport. It's the reality. Loma is not going to get a victory based on people saying, well, it's not fair that he's getting tied up. He has to be able to close that range effectively against a taller guy with a longer reach. And then when he gets inside, stop himself getting tied up and to be able to work. And when you're the naturally smaller guy against a big muscular man, having to stay in the pocket and work and getting your best success there, it's not easy. So the question is, do you believe at this stage of his career, where he may have lost a step as well in speed, does he even truly believe that he has the ability to win this? Or is it a shot for the stars in the hope of achieving greatness? Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about that. I know that's a bit of a controversial one, and I know it's going to divide opinion, but let me know. Elsewhere, Oscar De La Hoya gave an interview to Steve Kim, and he was asked whether he was concerned that fights such as Spence and Crawford, big fights, aren't being consummated. And Oscar De La Hoya actually said, look, I don't actually think this is a problem in the sport of boxing as a whole. I'm willing to work with other promoters are willing to work with me. I actually think this is a problem that's limited predominantly to the PBC. They are the obstacle to making these fights happen, and he called it the PBC effect. Now, whilst I agree with Oscar De La Hoya that a lot of PBC fighters have not been in the sort of events that we wanted to see them in. A lot of fighters that could have been fighting real top guys and they're not active, or if they are active, they're not fighting the sort of opposition we want to see them fighting. There's no doubt about that. Having said that, let's not pretend that Oscar De La Hoya doesn't have the likes of Jaime Munguia at his disposal, a very dangerous fighter with a devastating offensive arsenal. Very heavy-handed, dangerous guy. Now, I do think he is vulnerable. He can be touched, and maybe that's what they're worried about. They've lost Canelo Alvarez in recent years, and as a result of that, do they really want to gamble with a potential cash cow? They might not have too many potential cash cows left. So maybe they're being ultra careful with Jaime Munguia. But it's a little bit hypocritical of Oscar when he's got Munguia at his disposal and we're not seeing him in those big fights. There is potentially light at the end of the tunnel, though, because he's speaking about wanting to fight Dimitri Bivol. Now, talk about a step up. To go up to light heavyweight and fight Dimitri Bivol. Now, a few people on my timeline have been wondering why would he want to fight a guy like Dimitri Bivol rather than a lesser guy that people have been calling him to be in the ring with. If you lose to a guy that it's a fight that some fans think you can win, some think you'll lose, and there's a lot on the line here. If you lose that, your stock drops dramatically. And if you win, yeah, okay, you become a superstar, but there's a lot of danger there. Whereas Dimitri Bivol, if he was to go and beat Jaime Munguia, and especially if he was not to stop him, if he was to beat Munguia on points, Munguia could turn around and say, listen, I went up to light heavyweight and fought one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world, and I fell short. I can go back down now. I'm more recognizable, perhaps even, so my stock might actually rise from that, and then I've got options again. That's how I'm seeing it. Well, EddieHearn has piped up about this in an interview with Boxing Social and Parsons, and he basically was saying how he doesn't think Jaime Munguia would win a single round off of Dimitri Bivol. So he's sort of trash talking a little bit there, but doing it in a way where I'm sure many of you will actually agree that Jaime Munguia is not ready for that sort of step up. Let me know what you think. Who do you want to see Munguia in with? I personally would still love to see the Golovkin fight. I think stylistically that would be a real barn burner at this stage of their careers. Moving on from that and sticking along the lines of Eddie Hearn, he was also speaking about ConorBenn and the scenario there. ConorBenn put out a tweet to say he's patiently waiting. EddieHearn has reiterated that they've sent that 280-page document to the WBC. And EddieHearn was almost not threatening, but quite bullish. He was saying, listen, we know that ConorBenn is allowed to fight. He's been speaking about being allowed to fight. We're just waiting on you guys now. How long's the decision going to take? He's out there in Australia. He's getting very frustrated. You know, we're going to have to send him out to fight sooner or later. So he's sort of putting pressure on here, and he's almost portraying it in a manner whereby he's saying it was under your watch that this occurred and we want answers from you, as though he's deflecting to them, as though they are somehow dragging their feet. But a 280-page document where there are challenges there and question marks there, it does take time. So I think there's some really good promotional work, I think, with a bit of spin there from Eddie Hearn. Not that what he's saying isn't factual, but rather that to analyze a 280-page document, surely it's going to take time. So this idea that people need to hurry up, I don't know. You have to remember it was ConorBenn who failed the test. Now, whether he's guilty of knowingly doing that or not, time will tell. We do need due process, as I always say on this channel. But nonetheless, I don't know. It's a bit slick there from Eddie to be trying to put it on the WBC. That's at least how I'm seeing it. Let me know what you think, ladies and gents, about all the topics we've spoken about today. Please don't forget to hit a stiff jab on the like button, a right cross on the subscribe button, and an uppercut on the notifications button. Thanks for watching. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.